Hello, I'm Ricky Hayes, the private events manager at the United Theater on Broadway. All right, let's get into these questions. So when last minute challenges hit, what's your process for keeping everything on track? Great. For me, I always have to have a timeline prepared and knowing what the goal and the parameters are. So I can make last minute changes happen, but I have that direction of where we get back on track. If we need to deviate and change things, we have that overall goal, and always got to consult with the team. It's not one person at our venue running the show. We have a team, an ops manager, so it's bringing everyone in the fold. So I don't want a last minute change for me to then be a last minute stress for my team. Got to bring it all together. Teamwork is how we handle it. Right. Shuffle this up a little bit. What's your philosophy when it comes to budgeting, flexibility, precision, or creative problem solving? Well, I think overall with budgeting and flexibility, I try to take in a lot of things into the full context for a venue. Is it a peak day? Is it not? As far as if we're trying to budget with a client, maybe there's opportunity for a repeat business. Is this a one-off where even if it's a wedding, maybe it could generate another lead, but if it's a corporate client, it's hopefully gonna gain the budget or gain the ability to book them again down the road. So we have to be very flexible in our space and understanding that almost no event is exactly the same. So I welcome the creative challenges and flexibility with the client and just trying to think of the bigger picture of really what they're trying to accomplish. All right. Every great movie has a plot twist. What's been the most unexpected moment in your career that changed how you work? Wow, that's a big question. If you think about changed the way I work. Previously, before I worked at the venue I work at now, I worked with Vox DJs as a COO and really overseeing operations. And I think there was a event that changed how I approach working with the team quite a bit because we weren't given adequate information that we said we were going to have to execute a build of some lighting on a stage. And in the moment, I learned a lot more about delegation to the team, whereas even though I was the highest ranking person there on site, there was people I'd put in their places to handle the job well. And I saw their expertise come out, and whereas I used to be a lot more hands-on in this problem solving, I realized in that moment I really needed to pull back and trust the people on my team. They were there for a reason, and delegate the duties. The event ended up being incredibly successful, but it was challenging based off of the staff that I had there, just understanding that they were the right people for the job. Sometimes, even as the lead, just pull back a little bit, trust the people on your team. That changed how I work on site quite a bit. All right, that was a good question. Let's see what else we got. How do you balance creativity with structure when delivering a client's event? Great question. So creativity is always great, especially within the venue. We want to create these one-of-a-kind experiences, but I think the key thing is we have certain rules, and we're the experts at the venue. We know what works and what doesn't work. So we have to have a yes mentality on what the client of, yes, we can make that happen, but we're going to do it this way. We don't want to approach it with like, no, that's not going to work. We want to approach as, we can make that happen, but here's the way that would best work. I faced that challenge quite a bit with some movie premieres I had this year, and they wanted to be doing a lot of installations, but we loved the idea. However, we were the experts on it and knew this could actually damage the entire event, how it would flow. And even though it felt like saying no to them, when we actually did the event later on, they told us that they were so happy with us that we gave them way more yeses than other venues they'd worked with in the past, which was kind of shocking to us internally. We believed that we were actually putting them in not a box, but just very strict parameters. And they took it as completely opposite. They felt that it was our guidance that helped it succeed. So stick to knowing we're the expert, stick to rules that make sense, but guide the client on it. All right. Let's see what we got here. These are fun. I like this. What's your approach to turning constraints into creative opportunities? Yeah, kind of going back to that last question I answered about the creativity. With our venue, again, we are a historical building, so there are certain things you can and can't do. So again, trying to approach us knowing from previous experience, if someone wants to do something, like we had one where they wanted to put installations on our vintage glass windows, which would make this event look incredible. However, we knew the risk of them damaging it, doing what they wanted to do was really high. So we helped steer them into where we could create that same experience, but using some of the mirrors internally versus the glass windows, and just kind of taking the same idea they had, but help them recreate the flow of where they could still, like, we put them in front of the canvas that they wanted to use. Even though they wanted to use this one area originally, then we said, what if we did it here? Here's how it could make it even better. So we still took their creative idea, just kind of help them with the parameters a little bit. That's the best way, again, I think, with being someone who knows the space. Clients are coming in, they've never worked there in your space before. So try to give them that little guidance on what could be the best experience for them based off of our experience. All right. All right, if the United Theater on Broadway could tell its own story, would it be an epic fantasy, a work of magical realism, a gothic drama, or something entirely on its own? I want to almost say right off the bat the gothic drama, given the grand look of the theater, its Spanish Gothic design. I think it would be a gothic drama. I think there's something with the theater that just feels dramatic no matter what, and it tells its own story when you think of the history. So it's an interesting thing being in downtown, this urban environment that's grown so much since the building was built nearly 100 years ago. And you see that people have changed, but you still see some things that are the same. The building was originally built to help the creative freedom of the United Artists. People who said that the studio executives were diminishing their ability to have creativity flow. So they broke their contracts. Yet, only a couple of years ago, we saw the exact same sort of writers' strikes and creative strikes in Hollywood, nearly 100 years later. So it seems like, history repeating itself, the venue really stands out as this was a place to say, no, all creatives need to have that space for expression. So I think that there is some sort of drama with that naturally of people wanting to control creativity. So I think that would be the story here that it would tell about a place that walks in and takes your breath away, and still as if space where creatives can really stake their claim as part of the Hollywood history. I like it, getting specific with the venue here on these questions. All right. What's the most memorable client request that ever made you rethink how your team operates? What's funny is I think with a question like this, it's about knowing when to say no. When I worked with my previous company, again, Vox DJs I mentioned, we would have the ability to create a lot of things with the AV and decor and entertainment. And so I think clients naturally want to push that boundary a little to say, like, well, what can you do? And keep everything under one rooftop or one vendor instead of creating multiple contracts. So I remember there was a point where someone asked like, hey, could you carpet this stairway that was a circular stairway going up like 2 stories because we did red carpet for premieres and such. So like, oh, if you do red carpet, you could probably just carpet this stairway, a circular staircase. So that was probably the moment where I was like, there's a clear limit on when we say no. And as a team, this doesn't even take us internally saying, can we do it? There's a place with autonomy where you know what your limits are. You're the expert on certain things. For the sake of the event, for the client, that was one where I said, I know I'm gonna earn this business, even if I say no to this request. And I trust that what we can do, they'll love us for that. And I don't wanna overpromise, underdeliver. So yeah, circular staircase carpeting, no, not something we do. Rethought how we approach talking to our clients. See, what do you hope guests remember most about the experience you helped create once the night ends? I want people to always have like that wow factor that they don't want the event to end, where they hope to extend it and keep it going because they're having such a great time, but also that they immediately say, thank you for the time you took to create this with me, to listen, to understand the vision. And then it felt like they can tell me like we created this together. So yeah, I think that's it. When they don't look at me or my team as part of the like, hey, we just asked you to open the venue and hope everything goes well. At the end of the night, the experience we created, I hope they say like, we did this together. Like, you listened to me. That's what I want people to remember, is that it was something everyone created, all as one. Yeah. All right. How do you tailor your, after all the spreadsheets, contracts, and timelines, what to you truly defines a successful event? Got it. Yeah, I mean, it's easy, I guess, to say like, nothing went wrong and we made a profit and the person said, thank you. But yeah, I think a successful event is also the things that you don't see, or the client hopefully doesn't see, like the behind the scenes things, where if as a team we felt like we all knew exactly what the expectations were of each other, it ran smoothly. And even if there was hiccups, which, there's always little things behind the scenes that happen, the client doesn't see that, and the client never felt any stress. That usually defines success for me, is if the client felt like they could actually be a guest at their own event, and that they didn't have to be the one ever asking, what comes next? Are we on time? Or is everything going okay? If they can just sit back and you see them enjoying themselves, that's truly, for me, like, you can tell it was a successful day. All right. For clients planning an event for the first time, what's your best advice for keeping the process enjoyable instead of overwhelming? Hire a planner. Number one, hire an incredible planner. Your job, if you're the client planning this, is you bring in the creativity and the things that you love and you want to have at your event. You've seen things you hate, you've seen things you love, but you've got a job, you've got a kid, you've got whatever daily life throws at you. You shouldn't have to take on a second job planning this. Trust me, get a great planner. I know lots of them in the area here. If you ever need a recommendation, I'll help you out. But get people you trust that are great listeners to your vision, 100%. All right, let's see here. We're making our way through. What's one piece of advice you'd give a client when choosing the right entertainment partner for their event? Love it. You need to think about what's most important to you. Things like, is it an elegant, like, wow? Is it an absolute rager you want? Do you want, you don't care about things being cheesy or not cheesy, or if you want things to feel like your own personal private Coachella, tent, great. Think of all those things ahead of time, what your goals are, and then talk with the entertainment providers, look at their Instagrams, look at videos of them from the past, what they do, and talk to them about like what their passion is, about what they like to do at an event. Like find the commonality, the common ground of artists you like, not just entertainment, but even background. Like what do they do personality-wise? Make sure it's someone who's gonna like vibe with you really well. That usually helps because all these events take a lot of planning. You don't have to just hire some incredible DJ or incredible band. They gotta be great to work with and they gotta understand you. So chat with them about who they are, their backgrounds as well. I think that helps a lot as far as getting the right entertainment for the event. All right. What's the hardest lesson you've learned about balancing business goals with client expectations? Yeah, I think this is, again, where sometimes you want to say yes because you're afraid if you say no and confine the client, then they're just going to say, all right, if you can't do that, we can find another vendor that can, or we can find another venue that can do that. But you know that if you say yes to some of these expectations, the event itself probably isn't going to go well, and it's not going to meet their expectations overall. Like, so even if taking that event may get hit your revenue goal for the year, you can't forsake the success of that event. You got to keep that in mind because this industry is so referral based, and the documentation of video and photo and what the experience was. If you took on an event you shouldn't have to hit that goal, and you're probably not going to meet the expectations, that it'll come back to get you. I firmly believe that it will come back to you. Your best to create a great referral network, and then if you can't do it and you know someone who can, refer that out. Give them the business, because I think givers gain. It will come back to you as well. If you could replay one scene from your career over and over, what would it be and why? Yeah, this one's probably pretty easy for me. So I'm an Angelino, grew up here, of course, big Dodgers fan. So I was honored and privileged enough to have DJ'd the wedding for the former catcher of the Dodgers, Austin Barnes. And this was several years ago now, but being such a big baseball fan, most of the team was there. And I have these videos of like, I've got the team on the dance floor and players are coming up to me, giving me hugs, saying, oh, you killed it, man. Like, so I replay that in my mind quite a bit, seeing that packed dance floor with some of these athletes that I look up to and I cheer on. So what a cool juxtaposition of these people I cheer on in a stadium full of people. They're there cheering me on DJing. So yeah, that's my moment I replay. All right, what's one thing clients often overlook that can completely change the flow of their event? All right, yeah, so I think sometimes clients focus on the one thing, like, okay, once we finish dinner, then we're dancing. And when people arrive, it's, we have to have this here. But you can't necessarily control what all the guests really want to do. So it's sometimes you think about like, well, if your guests aren't dancing, what do you want them to be doing? It's like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. We have to get to entertainment. Well, yeah, but maybe then you want a photo booth, or maybe you want a magician, or you want something because, your 80-year-old grandma isn't gonna dance all night. So don't just feel like, well, she'll be done when she's done and then she goes home. So I think sometimes you think of just like this one thing. It goes like point A to point B on a timeline. But think about the other things that maybe are rolling in the background as well. But again, I'll go back to it. That's get a great planner. Get a planner that thinks of all these things, and they'll make sure that you're not ignoring something happening in the background. Like, oh, we forgot to figure out dessert coming out, or the timing of our specialty vendor at the end of the night. So yeah, trust that planner, make sure they're thinking about the things taking place in the background when the focal point isn't happening. All right. What's one thing people would be surprised to learn when planning an event at the United Theater on Broadway? Uh, let's see. Something surprised. I think a lot of guests, they see the theater itself and they've heard a little bit about it, but maybe they don't realize some of the Hollywood legends and the people have walked through the doors, and you're kind of writing your own history with that when you share an event there. So to think about, Charlie Chaplin showing movie premieres for his private group of people with him and Mary Pickford in the private theater in the basement, these hidden things that maybe you haven't seen before, or looking at the murals that were hand painted on the walls telling the story of Hollywood. I hear people sometimes have seen a concert there and sat on the floor and they miss these details, like the little intricate crystals in the tops of the chandeliers. I think if you let yourself kind of be a fan for a moment or two, you can have this fun, nostalgic, like nerdy feeling almost of like you're living in part of Hollywood history when you walk through the doors there. And it's okay to be like a fan at some points there. Like enjoy it, enjoy the theater. What's one detail people often overlook when planning an event that truly matters? So I always like this question to clients when they're planning an event. Sometimes, again, I kind of mentioned it earlier, you need to get from point A to point B to C on this timeline of an event, and you've checked all the boxes of we have a florist, we have a band or a DJ, we have a cake, we have all that. So you're doing these checklists, but stop and think about a year after your event, what do you want guests to be saying? So if you can sit as a client, it could be a wedding, it could be a corporate event, and you say, what do we want people to say about our event a year after it took place? Then that might help guide you into like some of those finer details you might be missing and find some joy in getting creative with it. All right, we're getting down to some of the final questions here. Let's see. All right, how do you tailor your approach differently for corporate clients versus social celebrations? Well, I know with social celebrations, yes, you can have maybe someone behind the scenes who's paying for it, who's not really the primary client. Example might be a wedding. You have, brides or grooms who, it's really their creativity is the focal point. It's their event. However, maybe there's someone paying behind the scenes, like a parent, but still it's really like you're limited down to like one or two people there. Corporate, I understand that sometimes there's going to be the planner and they need to get it approved by their manager, and then the budgeting. So being patient, changing the communication style a little bit to approach that it might be a committee versus individuals. So trying to be a little bit more personable, get those fine details with the social client and be a little direct there. And also with the corporate client, changing it a little bit to understand, don't put too much pressure on that one point of contact you're working with. Understand they've got enough pressure on their shoulders as is, probably from their boss or superior, to plan this. So that changes some of my communication style a little bit in these different kinds of clients. When an event budget tightens, what's the smartest place to invest rather than cut? It tightens. Well, I mean, you can always change things like, hey, you wanted the premium top shelf alcohol in the bar package, okay, all good. If you want to instead go with the house bar, or we really wanted this 15-piece huge band, but maybe a DJ can actually accomplish like what you're looking for and all that, save you a lot of money. So I don't really think that's necessarily cutting a vendor. It's changing it and still getting what you want out of it. Just focus on what's the most important thing. All these things can make a difference. Like florals, I mean, you can go so extravagant and create something, but also find a florist that can figure out the simple touches. So yeah, I don't ever like saying cut. I like to try to find value in what you're looking at on your contracts. Find the value in things versus just completely getting rid of it. So yeah. All right. How do you help clients make the right choices when vision and budget don't quite align? Number one, work with them on what the priorities are. Is their number one priority guests to have an epic dance party? Then great. Focus on that and maybe not the food or an extra course in the meal. Figure out what their top things are and then start eliminating out expenses that maybe don't work for them. Work on the timeline. Maybe you don't need 4 hours of open dancing and reception. Maybe you really only need 2. So there's ways that you can reconstruct the overall timeline of the event or the specific priorities maybe and focus on what really matters. When a client shares their vision, how do you keep the dream alive while guiding them towards what's truly possible? Yeah, figure out the things that you know work well in the space and use examples. Show them real examples in the past of how great this looked, but then don't make it like cookie cutter. Don't say do the same thing, but just say, this can work. How can we make your event fit into that? How can we prioritize the things important to you that fit within this structure? But just listen. It's one of those things like Alan Berg says, shut up and sell more. Put it out there, what's best for them, and then just listen. Let them talk. Let them tell you what's the most important thing, and you be their guide. Be the professional, be someone they can trust. Yeah. I guess that's it. That's all the questions. We got through it. I feel like that went fast, but hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully had some knowledge and expertise to help with this. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. So great questions. Thank you. I appreciate it.